Hello,
Welcome,
everybody.
everybody.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello, nice to see you.
Hello.
If you're happy and you're on, maybe put your name where you're zooming in from. And if you want your age and a little story about any midlife struggles.
And drop those in the chat. We would love to hear a little bit about where everybody's coming from. And yeah, we would love to hear a little bit about what's challenging you with this midlife phase thus far. And we're going to give it just a couple of minutes to let some more people join. Maggie and Johannika, can you see the chat okay?
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
good.
I can see the chat.
Perfect.
We have
have
Dee
plenty
from
of
Clarksville tuning in.
Oh,
Clarksville.
I can't.
Right.
Hang on, I can't see the chat in that case.
We'll have to remember to mention where we're tuning in from.
Oh yeah, I can't see anything on the chat at the moment. Let me try again. Oh, here we go.
You got it?
Yep, got it.
Got it now here too. All right, a few more people joining. Thank you so much for being here. Again, we're just dropping our name in the chat, where you're tuning in from, and maybe a quick midlife challenge.
Hey, it's good. It's on here. Hello, welcome.
Sorry I'm late.
It's
Oh,
all
it's
good.
all
That's
good.
okay.
No.
Here we go. Now I can see the chat. Chicago, Ontario. I know where it's coming from.
Got a few
Stephanie.
more people zooming in.
Netherlands, Pittsburgh,
All right. Ooh, Thailand.
Thailand. Wow.
That's
Welcome.
exciting. Welcome. We have many stories about midlife and the things that can happen. But if anybody feels that they would like to share a little one. Another person from Vermont, Donna. Welcome.
Hi, Donna.
We're going to give it, well, last time it was about the first 10 minutes where people will be still popping on. So we're going to give it a little bit longer. As a doctor myself, I have many stories of other people and their midlife and menopause struggles, but I've got some of my own as well.
Well, what was World Menopause Day 2 days ago, I think?
Yes.
2 days ago. And I was from Tulsa. I was talking about how I personally celebrated with a few hot flashes and getting pissed at my partner for breathing. And what else did I do? There was one other thing. Oh, yeah, forgetting things. Right. So, if you want to drop in the chat how you celebrated that day, would love to hear that. Oh, the texture of your hair. Yeah.
Hi, Kanta from London. I was actually in London on Friday on World Menopause Day. And I celebrate it with going to Isla Schaefer concert. I don't know if anybody knows her, but that was quite the experience. That was beautiful.
What kind of music?
It's like devotional, beautiful. It's used in ceremonies a lot. What was
Okay.
really beautiful about it is that there was no performance, no ego in it. So she even said, after the music, I'd love everybody just to sit in the energy of it rather than clapping straight away. So that made people just close their eyes, and it was like a sound bath immersion rather than a concert. So it was beautiful.
Wow.
And it really took it away from her as a performer to just the experience. It's beautiful.
That's nice. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it was really nice. But I could share one of my well, it'll come later on as well. One of my midlife or menopause issues is a pounding heart. You know, like you're feeling like your chest, your heart's about to pop out of your chest. Luckily, because I know it's fine, it's not the menopause. In fact, I saw a little clip of Oprah saying that was one of her main menopause struggles. So I'm not going to the doctors again. It checked out, but it isn't very pleasant sometimes. You're literally sitting there and it's like woof, 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 in the chest.
Yeah.
Right, what are we doing for time?
Right. Yeah, I think we can get started. I'll just bring people in if anybody shows up late, but I'd love to respect everybody's time. So are we good with that, ladies?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's
Yeah.
roll. So welcome again to Navigating Midlife and Menopause with Fun and Grace. And we are so excited that you're here today. I don't want to say this morning. It's morning for me and for Maggie, but with all of you tuning in across the world, it's just, we're so grateful for you to be here. So Maggie's going to tell you a little bit about what we have in store for you today.
All right. So just to give you a premise of how this is going to go, we're going to start off with some introductions of who we are individually and as we've come together as Soul Synergy and how that came about. And then we're going to walk you through some key aspects of embracing midlife, which we hope will be really supportive for you. And then we're going to talk about an experience that we've created for 2025 and tell you all about it. And then we'll have open time for Q&A and time to share any other stories or things that are coming up in the moment. So I'm going to hand it over to Lori. Actually, no, I'm going to take it on. I'm going to stay on for a second. So I'm Maggie Thomas. I'm from Ontario, Canada, and I have an extensive yoga background. I'm a yoga teacher. I've facilitated yoga teacher trainings and certified instructors. I have a really in-depth background in biomechanics, anatomy. I have a training in orthotics. So I'm a certified orthotist, but also stepping away from the medical industry and fully embracing this new holistic approach to living and supporting people with human design readings and retreat hosting.
And I am Lori Lisai. I am a human design mentor and alignment coach, and I work with midlife women to help them basically be who they came here to be, using human design as a tool. I am a retreat host, and I have a podcast called Midlife by Design, and my history is rooted in teaching. I've been a teacher for over 2 decades, so I'm bringing some of those strengths to the table as well.
And I'm Johanneke Kodde, and I'm originally from Holland, but I am now living in the UK, and I have been a doctor for 25 years or so, a family doctor, a family physician, which is called a GP in the UK, for nearly 20 years. But in the last 4 or 5 years, I've gone through a major upheaval in my life, with my daughter becoming unwell and myself hitting perimenopause and Chiron return, if you look at it from an astrological point of view, and really gone back to what I always loved and was interested in, which is spirituality and the body-mind connection all mixed together. And now, rather than coming from the conventional point of view of understanding the body, I've actually embracing the whole multidimensional reality of life, which is, everything: emotions, mindset, energy. And with that, I discovered human design, become a reader, and also I've learned to read the Akashic record, which is another level of tapping into the metaphysical reality. So I mix this all together now in my holistic practice, rather than just the conventional medicine. So that's me.
Okay, and so the way that we all came about as Soul Synarchy, we actually all met on a retreat this past year in April in Mexico. So whatever divine timing or divine energy kind of brought us all together for this experience. And Johannika and I ended up being roommates and really hit it off. And then Lori ended up meeting us for an excursion, a dolphin excursion. And it was actually kind of funny because when we were trying to find people to join us in doing this, I naturally went to Lori, not even really knowing who she was, other than she was the girl that emailed me some information that I didn't get during like the pre-lead up to the retreat. And I thought she was really cool. And I'm like, oh, okay, come on. Like, yeah, you want to come? And she goes, oh, no, like, I think I'm good. And then Johannika like circled over to her as well. And and she still was like kind of hesitant. And then we're both looking at her. And then she's like, okay, okay, I'm in. And it ended up being like just such a wonderful experience spending the whole day together and then building upon that. And we really had no idea that anything would transpire beyond that week, but it totally did. And then we all came together really inspired and wanting to support other women in what we had been experiencing and helping them navigate it, because all three of us are going through different phases of menopause right now. And so coming together and putting a retreat offering together and starting to build not only our relationships together, but also creating something beautiful and expansive for you. So that's how Soul Synarchy came about.
And I will
I
just say a word about the word soul synarchy. So if anybody's familiar with the gene keys, which you may not be, but synarchy is one of them themes in it. And synarchy means the opposite of anarchy. So synarchy means when everybody's being themselves, everything's just working as it should, and it naturally works together. It's a bit like an orchestra playing together, or it's like nature, when everything just everybody does their own thing, but somehow together it creates a beautiful harmony and a beautiful feel together. So that's why we felt Soul Synarchy was a good name for a collective or a trio. So there you are.
which is also a beautiful nod to our human design. I think that knowing our design and understanding each other at that level has allowed us to just basically skip a lot of steps and speed through this process of being able to work together and really honor one another and what we bring to the table. So as you learn about human design, we hope that it will be super empowering for you too. So before we launch into our class, I do want to take a minute for some stillness because wherever you're tuning in from, everybody will be bringing their own sort of historical context, right? Whether it just be a couple of hours ago, whatever was happening there, or, much longer. But I'm inviting you in now to be present with us. And so if you're comfortable, I'd love for you to close your eyes. If not, maybe just soften your gaze and root down into this space that you're tuning in from and this earth who is supporting us, and offering some gratitude for Mama Earth and all that she delivers to us, that she offers us, that she welcomes us, that she composts our waste in many different ways. She'll take our tears and turn them into magic, and just expressing our gratitude for that, wherever you happen to be coming from. And I also invite you to set an intention during this time of quiet, thinking about what would you really like to come out of this time with? How would you like to be changed by the end of our time together? So I'm just going to give you a moment of quiet to let those thoughts swirl about and let some inspiration drop in. And with your eyes remaining closed, I invite you to just breathe in a nice deep breath. Hold at the top, then exhale. One more deep breath in. Hold at the top, and exhale. I invite you to come back to this space. And I just wanted to express that our intention for you is to come away feeling that you have more knowledge to meet this time of your life with fun and grace, and that you feel inspiration for doing so. So thank you so much for taking that moment. And we're going to start class today by talking about our midlife transitions. We're going to look at what is actually the definition of midlife. I know a lot of women come to me and they're like, am I even in midlife? What is this time? Some shifting perceptions, how there's such potential for transformation, how you might live in authenticity during this time, and how our priorities can really be shifting. So, midlife, by definition, is the central period of a woman's life, roughly 45 to 55, although perimenopause can certainly happen in a much broader sense in terms of the years of your life. But this quote over here by Brene Brown, I think it's just so beautiful. She said, people may call what happens at midlife a quote crisis, but it's not. It's an unraveling, a time when you feel a desperate pull to the life you want to live, not the one you're supposed to live. And I believe that it's such a great explanation of what we can come to in midlife. It really is a time to reassess your choices, which can mean that you're confronting some regrets that you maybe have of choices that you've made in the past. However, it is a chance for you to look forward and redefine, what does life look like for you? And midlife is often used synonymously with perimenopause and, the physical changes that we experience as women. So the crisis part of midlife, though, is really more the emotional crisis of who am I? What do I want to do with the rest of my life? How have I created this life thus far? And does that really feel in alignment for me? Or have I just been sort of following the steps of society's expectations? Have I just been sort of checking the boxes of I go to school and I get married and I have children and I have a career, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a chance, an opportunity for you to get curious about that and think about, okay, all of those choices that you made, what really feels like a choice for you and what feels like a choice for somebody else, and how can you rectify that situation? So, some of the signs that potentially something needs to shift would be, if you're feeling like, what am I doing? What is the purpose? Like, why am I here? What is the purpose of this lifetime? If you are spending too much time in the lower expression of your human design, meaning if you are new to human design, it's a system for self awareness, and there are high expressions and low expressions of every nook and cranny, every little part of human design. And essentially the high expression is when you're kind of feeling high vibe. It's that feeling of joyfulness or alignment, or it feels like you are being true to yourself, versus the lower expression is more feeling out of alignment, feeling like are not uh, you're not rising to your potential. You're maybe falling into patterns that don't really serve you. So some of those indicators, straight from human design, are frustration, anger, disappointment, bitterness. And those are essentially, think of them as road signs on the road of life. And when you meet those emotions, they are telling you this is not your true alignment. This is not your true self. You need to, take a different road, take a different path in order to guide yourself toward the higher expressions. And that feeling of just being unfulfilled is really an invitation for you to get curious, like, how can I change my life? How might I make different decisions to come into alignment? And this feeling of being disconnected from your true self, I think is honestly pretty common for women in midlife, because they just aren't sure that they've made decisions for themselves. And I think there can be a lot of shame around that. And I just want to name that, because everything that you've chosen in your life up until now has offered you some sort of lesson, one way or the other. So there's a way to, to mine the joy from that and also make different decisions for yourself, for your future. So I wanted to just talk briefly about the midlife transition here with women's health and the inequities of women's health, and also basically just to name that, because we live in a patriarchal society, right? That is the truth of our current existence. We are women in a world where that's in and of itself already puts us at a disadvantage in lots of ways. So, I think I like to think about, how might menopause, this whole experience of menopause and perimenopause, be different if men experienced it? What might that look like? And how quickly might it have been attended to had it been, the other gender that was experiencing that? So I think it's fair to get curious about that, and to also see women's health and this phase of life as a chance for us to make a shift in the collective consciousness by bringing more knowledge to the table. So, as much as we can fill ourselves with knowledge and go to our practitioners with knowledge, having done our research, having a deep understanding of what is happening in our body, the more that we are empowering not only ourselves, but future generations. This is something that we are we're doing to raise the collective vibe, the collective consciousness, and to really help just women everywhere and generations to come. So, I'm inviting you to think about how your act of sovereignty is helping to collectively bring our whole world into a better place. I also wanted to talk just briefly about the new definition of old. I think that we are in this current world that we live in, this population of women, there are the most of us that there have ever been, right? Like we did not used to live as long as we are living now. And so this population of women coming into this age is quite large. And so we have a lot of power, and it's important to recognize that. And I think that we see it happening. So these are just photos from social media of the whole "This is 40" kind of movement, where Anne Hathaway was in that movie, The Idea of You, on, I think it was on Netflix anyway. And it was all about, this older woman and this younger man who got together, and there was this uproar about, oh, she doesn't look 40. And so it opened up this conversation about, what does 40 look like? What is 40? And all these women just started posting. And I think what was beautiful about that is just seeing that it's so different in so many ways. And we can celebrate that, and we reject these dated perceptions of aging, and we invite in this new perception of aging as more an invitation into the wild woman phase, which we will talk about, and expanding our awareness around women aging. And how do we do that in a way that respects what we bring to the table versus just dismisses us, which I think has been very much how we've been doing it in the past. So I officially invite you to your fuck it era. This is your midlife opportunity to just learn how to say fuck it all. And here's this, I love this this cup here, because I think this is where women have the opportunity to just let go of the bullshit that has been expected of us, that has been demanded of us even, and instead learn to live life for yourself. Learn to live it and be truly rooted in who you are unapologetically. This is your unapologetic era. And again, going to the idea of the wild woman is the woman who does this. She wears fuck it all on her chest very happily. So it is a time for personal growth, a time to break old patterns and truly reinvent yourself if you so desire. So, your official invitation to do that. And to build on the idea of this personal growth and transformation, this truly is, I think, the best time to reinvent yourself in your lifetime, because you're coming into this phase of life with wisdom of past experience, of the years that you have lived, and you can use that to make decisions about the person that you want to be. And you've got some real life experience to bring to the table to inform that. And as you learn about your human design, I think this is where knowing that information can be an absolute game changer. Because oftentimes, what human design can do in this phase of life is bring you back to who you truly are, and help you understand, like, oh, that's why I do that. That is who I am. And I don't need to try to make that part of me small anymore. I don't need to try to soften it. This is actually my time to bring this forward and live it with abandon. So it's a really beautiful opportunity to come into this wild woman archetype and make decisions that align with yourself. So I am going to talk a little bit about boundaries here, just as an opportunity for a tool for you, basically. So you will get the replay of our presentation today, our class, and so this graphic will be on there, which gives you some quick little pointers about how do you actually establish boundaries. Because as you're coming into this wild woman phase, it is going to require you to set boundaries. And from a human design lens, the more kind of openness you have in your chart, that's one indicator of like specific places that you might need to set boundaries and the need to set boundaries. Because where you have openness in human design is where you take in and amplify other people's energy. So when you're doing that, it's important to understand that that is not actually you. That's not something that you bring to the table. However, because of that, you want to be able to have boundaries so you know, like, okay, this is not me. I'm experiencing it in this moment, and I'm going to let it go when I'm out of this person's presence. So a few other things besides boundaries are the importance of self-care during this time. Joe is going to talk more about how this is an invitation to slow down. And self-care, we think, is one of the most important components of moving into this phase and really supporting yourself in this time of life. Saying no, which is closely related to boundaries, but just learning that no is a complete sentence. It's okay for you to say no. It's okay for you to make other people uncomfortable if you are not interested or willing or excited to do something. And it's time to prioritize your own needs. So most women by this phase of life have been taking care of other people and attending to others' needs. And we invite you to really step into what serves you. What is it that you need in this phase of life? And now Joe is going to talk about the medical side.
Okay, so I'm going to talk you through some of the most obvious hormonal changes, and we'll have a little chat. You can put in the chat in a minute how you might be experiencing these changes. I'm also going to point out and show you how stress is really a major player in this whole process, and therefore how important it is to look at that in your life. I'm gonna just touch on briefly on the medical approaches in terms of HRT or not, or how that might be used, and some of my top tips, which is, I mean, I do a lot more than the medical, but this is kind of what I bring today to this masterclass. And I love, Laurie, how you keep saying class. Like I've never thought of myself of teaching class, but I'll take it. Yeah, menopause, perimenopause. Anyone have any symptoms that they might like to share that have been challenging, interesting, different? I think hot flashes are itchiness. Maggie says, oh, Maggie had a really good story about this one. Does it weight gain? Anyone else? Any symptoms that come across? I've shared with you palpitations is one of mine. Now we've got a long list, but I'm gonna just fatigue, yeah, heart rhythm, itching. Oh, itching is a good one. I think I find I can wake up in the middle of the night, not necessarily with hot flash, but certainly feeling just really itchy all over and not knowing why. Joint pains, yes, hip pain. If anybody's had pregnancies, I always found that was really challenging. And then, you know, similar symptoms. Forgetfulness, hair loss, restless at night. Oh God, yeah. Waking up in the middle of the night thinking, I'm no idea why I'm awake, but I am. Eerie brain, weird chest. Just weird chest for sure. My chest is being weird a lot of the time at the moment. Any more? I mean, the list just goes on, and I think we all know that. So let's have a little look at the list that I compiled. So I call it the show, or the showdown. And basically, this is just a list. But what's happening, I'll put you in the picture here. So estrogen, or estradiol in particular, is a hormone that women have much more than men. And why do we have it? Because we as women have the capacity to produce a new life. And that is so awesome and so amazing. And in order to do that, our whole body has to change while we're doing that. So estradiol modulates every single cell pretty much in every single organ in our body in order for us to grow a new life if we choose to do so, which means our heart has to get bigger, our blood pressure has, or our blood vessels have to expand, which makes our blood pressure, we have to carry more volume of blood, we have to, our bones need to change, our pelvis needs to be able to expand, and the list just goes on and on. So in order to be able to do that, we have high estrogen. And then when that high estrogen drops away, when we come towards the menopause, suddenly our body, which is very clever and can adjust to this, has to make a whole turnaround and get used to not having the estradiol anymore. Which is why some people will tell you that when you go through menopause, you're then suddenly going to get heart attacks and strokes and all sorts of things, which I don't subscribe to that necessarily. But if you continue to live as if you had high estrogen, you might find that your body will struggle to adjust. So here are some of the aches and pains, the sleep, the brain fog, word finding difficulties, mood swings, anxiety, libido changes, vaginal dryness, and then cravings are also the hormonal ups and downs, which I'll come to the graph in a minute, causes these things, weight changes, palpitations. I mean, there is more than this, but we'll look at the next slide just to see what's happening. So some of you may have seen this, and if not, I think this is one of the most interesting graphs. I'm not one for graphs generally. It's not my jam, but this one I think is really good. So if you can see at 25, we have high levels, or the highest levels of estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and then melatonin as well. And every month this goes up and down. Every month we have estrogen rising when we have our follicles build to prepare an egg to be popped. Once the egg has come, once you've had your ovulation, progesterone will rise, and then you will feel like retreating back. You'll have less energy, you have different food cravings because you're ready to get to hunker down until you do or don't have a fertilized egg, and then you will have to either get more progesterone to grow this baby, or if you don't, then the progesterone drops away again and you will shed your lining of the womb, and that's when you feel, and that's when it actually, if you think about it in the cyclical nature and more spiritual emotional way, that's when women used to retreat, and that's when they would get their biggest intuitive information. So women would actually gather at their periods and the men would protect them, and they would then have the best access to their intuition because they were at their lowest ebb of energy. They would withdraw. And if we honor that during our cycle, a life of cycles, we're starting to learn so much about ourselves. But anyway, that's aside. If you can see from 35 onwards, it still goes up and down monthly, but the levels, start to drop off. So what you'll see is that, first of all, progesterone drops away, which means if people, for example, are on a progesterone pill, or you use progesterone gel, or you have a Mirena coil, you will temporarily keep that progesterone level a bit higher, and you may not notice that many changes for a little while. And then when you get to kind of mid-40s, it really starts to become a roller coaster, because every cycle, between cycles, or at your period, estrogen will drop low, and then your brain will give your ovaries a message to go, come on, you try harder, and that will boost your estrogen back up to produce another ovulation. So you'll see it goes back up, and you might be feeling okay, and then it drops right down away because your baseline is going down and down. And that's where you can see that you're getting all these emotional, all these changes. So sometimes you might feel okay, and other times you really won't be feeling okay, because it's such a roller coaster. And then interestingly, something people may not be aware of, testosterone becomes the most dominant of the hormones once you get past 50, and the levels drop away. And you also can see, so actually, in a way, this whole idea that our libido goes down, who knows, but testosterone has a higher level, so that explains why we might get some hair growth and some more male type changes. And then you can see melatonin also lowers, so that's where the sleep comes in. Okay, so every woman will have a different experience. So we know there are cultures where it's not mentioned. Do they not experience this? Who knows? But definitely it's not something that's noticed as much. But what's happening in our culture, I think, is the biggest cause of this being so uncomfortable, or one of the reasons, is because stress will make it worse. And cortisol is another hormone which uses the same precursor hormone as estrogen, progesterone. So if you're having to use a lot of cortisol because you're finding things stressful in your life, you're trying to juggle lots of things, you're worried about things, then you need more cortisol to keep going. And that steals away from some of the hormones. If you think back to the graph, if you have less of those hormones, you will notice these changes more earlier, younger, and they might be more severe. And stress is not just when you have a horrible boss at work, or when you're being squeezed to do too many things. Stress is anything that your brain perceives as a threat. So it could also be the thought of one day losing somebody or something. That could cause just as much stress, because our brain doesn't know the difference between real and imagined. So if you are thinking back about all the things that have happened to you, and you feel distressed by the fact that somebody said something not so nice about you one day, or somebody screwed you over somewhere, or somebody misused you, or you were just treated badly, and you hanging on to this as something that is still causing you difficulties now, in this present moment, you will create stress in your system. Same applies to future. If you're worried and anxious about what might happen in this very moment, your physical body is creating stress hormone. So all of these emotional distresses often are imaginary lions. And of course, there are external stresses when you have had a job and suddenly you haven't got the energy for it because your estrogen is changing and you have to keep it up. That's an external stressor, which you may have to adjust something about your job in real time. And obviously relationship issues, losing friends or parents. There are so many children who are not well. There are a lot of external stressors, but we often make them a lot worse by the way we perceive them and the way we think about them, whether we look back or look forward to anything that could happen. So, and then the question is, in all of this stress and all of these difficulties, we often lose our sense of humor, and we lose the fun, and we start to forget what life's all about, because it's all so hard going. So yeah, this is a nice move about being a bit dry. So then let's talk about treatment options. So as HRT, or there's another name for it, is it menopause hormone treatment, MHT or something. And is that right? Did I see that, Laurie?
Yeah.
HRT, we call it here. There are, so yes, they work, because if you think about the graph, estrogen levels are dropping. If you give yourself back some estrogen, you will feel better because you'll feel like you used to. And what options do we have? We have things like the combined pill, which will have numbed, if you were still on it, will have numbed your own cycle completely, but it still gives you a baseline level of hormones. So it may help actually for a degree. I'm not a fan. However, if you're on it, it does help, but it's synthesized. So it's not actually the same as your own hormones. It is artificial. And then there is the gels and the patches. They are called bioidentical. That means the estradiol that is in them in your body doesn't know the difference between your own and the one that you put on. So, I mean, maybe it does a bit, but not really from a chemical perspective. So they are pretty safe, mostly, these hormones. And I'm not worried about the safety of them for most people. Even, the question about cancer, what we know now is that it doesn't cause cancer, but it probably makes an already existing undetectable cancer more likely to grow, because you're giving it hormone more than there was before, and therefore it may be detected more quickly. So that's what we know about it now. But the safest ones to use tend to be the ones through the skin, but you also have the tablets. And for some people, that's also okay. They have a slightly more high risk of getting some clots. And it can be very, very effective. So if you are really struggling, you can't sleep, you can't function, you can't think, and you can't even think what your future might hold or what you might have to change in your life, then it can give you a grace period where you're just hanging on, and you're feeling you're feeling a bit better, good enough to make some decisions. But I personally don't believe that it's necessary for your long-term health. So I know plenty of women who are perfectly happy, don't have osteoporosis, don't have heart attacks and strokes, and they're not on hormone replacement. And that's something that I think in the media at the moment is misrepresented, because actually as a species, we have evolved to have a post-reproductive state. Now, most of us maybe wouldn't have lived beyond our 50s, but our human bodies are designed to be able to live a lot longer. So actually we have evolved to have a post-reproductive stage, which means we have evolved to have some benefit from having women who got beyond 50 and still stay alive without their high levels of hormones. And our bodies are super clever. They can simply adjust to, because men's bodies work fine. So what's not to say that our bodies wouldn't work fine after the menopause when these hormone levels have stabilized again. So I think what the risk of going on hormone replacement and thinking that will solve it all is that you actually don't look at any of those issues that are making that, Laurie talked about the midlife life changes that might be necessary to make. And then there are some patriarchal influences that I think also are mixed in with this whole narrative, or with this whole discussion, which means a lot of women, even women that call themselves feminist, have actually got masculine standards that they hold themselves to, which involve working hard, pushing through, being able to have it all, so to speak, high-powered jobs, but also just that element of having the determination and the power and the willpower and the being allowed to do it all and have it all, which actually uses masculine standards. And I think if you look at the feminine way, which we could have picked up during our lifetime if we noticed our cycles, and actually we would have seen the true power is in the feminine flow, and the fact that you can receive and that you can navigate different stages. And then there's something about having to stay nice, pushing through. Like I said, being resilient is actually about bouncing back. It's not about just keeping going for the sake of keeping going. And I've certainly been done this as a doctor and as a young woman trying to get through medical school. I basically behaved like a man, and I was pretty proud of it as well, that I wasn't making a fuss about my emotions and my periods, which I look back and think, really, was I proud of that? So, and then of course there are many alternative approaches that help, and I talked about this last time. At the moment, I am taking some really disgusting Chinese herbs to help my bleeding stop, and it has worked, but it has also been pretty unpleasant for me, the process. But I think if we approach it as an opportunity to make changes, we still could sometimes benefit from some nutritional supplementary approaches that, or Reiki or energy healing or massages, or there are so many things that can help us. But I think we have an opportunity here to make sure that we look at the emotional aspect of things as well. See what. So my top tips would be, first of all, stop self-blame. Don't feel like you're not good enough. Don't feel like you ought to be better. Don't feel like there's something wrong with you when you get a bit narky or arsey towards somebody, because this is your inner wild woman saying, fuck off, I'm not doing this. But rather than feeling bad about it, go back and go, oh, why did I say that? Why am I triggered by this situation? What's going on here? My next top tip is rest. Rest and rest to more. Do less. Because if you are putting more pressure on yourself to do those crunches and go to the gym regularly and sort out your food, and you're causing, think back to the cortisol, you're putting more pressure onto yourself. So actually, rather than putting more pressure about doing more, I would say do less. Check in with yourself before you decide to do. Because do you have to do? Is it helping you to do? Or actually might be more helpful to not do that thing and find a more gentle way of dealing it. For example, rather than a hardcore yoga class, do a yoga nidra class, or rather than going for a run, depending on your, I mean, if you've got energy to burn off, fine, go for a run. But if you actually feel like there's something else that you need, you haven't got that underlying energy, don't do it. I cut out a lot of my exercise in this phase. I'm still checking in. I try to check in every time before I do something. Have I really got the energy for it? Or actually, this is just my brain saying you ought to do this. And then some basic things like, alcohol is just a stress on the body. Caffeine makes you going, but actually is a stress. Make sure you hydrate. And maybe if don't be too hard on yourself, but stabilizing blood sugar is really helpful, because you already have these hormonal ups and downs, and they are closely linked to your energy levels. And then when you have cravings, again, don't feel bad about them, but go, oh, interesting, I'm now having some crisps again, or some chocolate, or some sugar. Why am I craving this? What is the need, the emotional need that might be behind this? Do I actually want a hug from do I want to phone a friend? Do I feel lonely? Do I feel like I'm not good enough? Do I feel that I just want to relax? Do I feel, what's underneath it that makes you have that craving, and tend to that need, rather than feeling bad about having eaten that sugar or that salt again. And then if you can, make some changes. Ultra processed foods, as we are probably all aware, are just really hard for your body to digest. So if you think about your body's already working quite hard to going to deal with those changes, to rebalance itself all the time. If you add to that a lot of extra toxins, it's just harder for your body to deal with it. So go with whole foods as much as you can, healthy fats and plants. And then also really important, to regulate your nervous system. There's loads of ways, but if you want to, you can't really have lots of fun and joy and be super stressed. If you boost your happy hormones, the serotonin, oxytocin, all those hormones that go up when you meet friends, when you do things you enjoy, when you really get into what you always used to like and enjoy, then that will really go boost it, or it will go against the higher stress levels. That was my bit.
All right. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about the mind-body connection, and we'll also talk a little bit about self-awareness. And actually, you could just go right into the next slide, Lori. So I'm going to bring it back kind of full circle and revisit that wild woman essence, but I want to talk to you about two archetypes. So there's the good girl archetype and there's the wild woman archetype. And when I say these archetypes, they're like these outfits that we've been wearing or these roles that we've been playing in life. And sometimes we play a certain role or wear a certain outfit for a really extended period of time. So the good girl, she is genuinely has this sense of sweetness about her. She really wants to keep the peace. She doesn't want to ruffle any feathers. She innately has this kindness, this politeness, this respectfulness towards others. And she wants to be accepted and liked, and to the point where she might bend in order to fit into like a group, whether it's a work environment, a family environment, or a social gathering. In doing so, she'll tend to say yes to a lot of things, to the point where she's people pleasing and she's sacrificing herself. She may edit her voice in order to keep the peace. And she really feels like she needs to fulfill societal and familial obligations all the time. And so she'll overcommit herself, and that may increase her stress levels and then lead to burnout. And she can hide parts of herself because she feels disconnected to that authentic self, her inner soul, and what her direction is in life. And she may even feel lost at times. She may come to a place and be like, how did I even get here? Like, who am I now? And what is next for me? Like, what is this place? And what am I wearing? And um in essence, she's kind of playing small. And this is kind of, you may be able to relate to her because maybe you're still wearing this outfit or playing this role in this lifetime. But the wild woman, um, she is confident with who she is and she's living her authentic self. She has this clarity around what her goals are and she knows exactly where she's headed. She's able to speak her truth and unedit her voice, and not in a mean way or a disrespectful way. She's quite still has that kindness about her that she's carried through. But she's really able to honor her own desires. She's willing to step into saying no. She only says yes to things that are in alignment with like her values, her beliefs, and how her energy is supporting her. And she has these boundaries that she's put into place and she's able to uphold them. And like Lori said, she's unapologetic for all of it. She fully loves herself and she's embraced all the parts of herself and all the shifts that are happening. And she is very connected to her intuition. And she realizes that she has a profound wisdom within her that needs to come out. And by allowing it to come out, she can then inspire and empower the women around her and help them step into their feminine power. And so she's ready to like step up and play big in life. And looking at these two archetypes or these outfits or roles that you're playing, shifting from one to the other or taking the one outfit off and putting another one on, it can be really scary, right? Especially if we've been wearing one for a long time. And the good girl archetype, like we tend to kind of wear that outfit for decades sometimes. And so coming out of a comfort zone, I kind of look at it as like the good girls like having those your best leggings, your best Lulu leggings that you just kind of wear all the time. They're comfy, they're cozy, they're familiar. And then there can be fear around stepping into something new, right? Fear around judgment. People are going to not understand what's going on with me, or fear that you're walking it alone and not really understanding what's happening. So you can type in the chat, like, can you relate to any of this? Do any of you feel this resonance between being in that good girl outfit still, or maybe starting to step into that wild woman essence? am a people pleaser, always take a lot more than I should just to keep the peace and don't like confrontation, always judged by people. Yes. Kanta, that's like bang on. And I'm sure there's a lot of women doing that. Okay. So essentially, our bodies are magnificent, right? Like, I'm sure you can relate to experiences in your life where you can really relate to that. But our bodies are able to relay these messages to us all the time of like what is going on inside and what is needed. And the symptoms that we are experiencing and that we tend to experience more as we step into perimenopause, it's like it kind of starts to speak louder. That's our body's way of communicating with us. It's trying to get our attention. So these midlife shifts that are happening, they're happening for you, not against you. And I know it's hard to kind of swallow that pill, especially when it can be challenging to navigate some of those symptoms, but it's about shifting your perspective, right? It can be a hard one to grasp for sure, but let's look at it this way. Um, let's say you're getting less estrogen is being produced in your body. Well, this can be so that you can feel less inclined to say yes to things and say like less inclined to people please and to start stepping in to saying no more, right? If you have less energy, this is your body helping you so that you start to spin less plates and that you start to take more time for you to do, as Johannika said, to rest, to do less. When you have less patience, this is your body asking you so that you can stop, like edit your voice less and start stepping into speaking your truth. So it's really about shifting your lens from like, why is this happening to me to what do I need to learn from this experience? And it just takes time and practice and attention to be able to make that shift with that mindset. But as much as our focus is today on terms of midlife transitions, we do have to acknowledge that there's several cycles that we go through. And if we talk about puberty, it's like our teens, which we're all familiar with, but we actually have multiple puberty phases. And one is in the 40s when we're actually, anytime you give birth, that's like a whole puberty in itself. But in your 40s, you're stepping into perimenopause. That's a whole puberty. It's a whole shift of hormones. It's a whole stepping into a new phase, a new archetype. Into your 50s, going right into menopause and going beyond that. And all of these shifts are offering an opportunity for you to connect to your mind, your body, and your spirit in a different way. So you could, like, we could even look at this from a point of this chakra system, for example. So, like in your 20s, we'll say you're kind of like a rock star, a hustler. This is all about stability and foundation. So it's about grounding through your root chakra, your sacral chakra, and your solar plexus. And there's some energetic alignments from the planets that are also supporting us. But this is about building the foundations of your career, your relationship, and having this healthy home. This is all your driving force at this age. In your 30s, it's all about relationships, community, caring for others, this mothering energy. And this coincides with a Saturn return, which is all about nurturing and caring for other people. And so this is your heart chakra starting to expand and open. And it can be really challenging as we start to get overwhelmed because we take on all these responsibilities. And then as you step into your 40s, this is where we become these super women or these wild women because it's the perimenopause. It also coincides with the awakening energy of your Uranus opposition. It's instead of a crisis or a midlife crisis, it's an awakening transition where you can reevaluate, but it allows your throat chakra to open up so you can communicate and start to manifest. And this is where women really start to come into their own and start to advocate for themselves and speak their truth and gain clarity about what they want in their life, right? It's like how Lori said, like, it's like, how did I get here? So starting to take that time to really evaluate that. And then as you're moving into your 50s, this is the commanders. So we talk about menopause. And it really coincides with your Chiron return, this wound healing energy. And you'll start to notice things from your childhood starting to surface because it wants to be processed. Because in that process, You activate your third eye and your crown, and you cultivate this wisdom and this divine connection. So this is like a whole coronation phase, which allows us that deeper connection to spirituality, to our energetic bodies, and to essentially step into this natural life transition, right? Like stepping out of the good girl archetype and into the wild woman. It's a natural transition for us. It's like a rite of passage where we get to step into a new role and support our community in a different way. And it's very much associated with wisdom and this deeper connection to spirituality. It's like a trade-off. Like there's a loss or a letting go of something in order to step into another aspect or another offer that gives us empowerment and resilience and growth. It's part of our evolution. Okay. So we can cultivate awareness in all types of areas, like even something as simple as pausing for a moment to consciously take a breath. So let's just take a moment to do that. Just wherever you are, plant your feet on the ground if you can, or feel your seat meet the surface that you're sitting on, and sitting up nice and straight. You can relax your hands onto your sides and then close your eyes or soften your gaze. And everyone take a deep breath in. Exhale out your mouth. We'll do 2 more of those. Take a deep breath in, shrug your shoulders up to your ears. Exhale, soften them down your back body. Inhale through your nose, loop your shoulders up. Exhale to soften. And then one more on your own. And just take a moment to notice the release in your body, attune to any sensations, and then gently bring light upon your eyes. So something I've often shared in a yoga class or a training is the quality of your breath is the quality of your life. So if your breath is shallow or quick or contractive, then so too is your life. So it'll be short, it'll be empty, it'll feel depleting. But if your breath is deep and slow and expansive, then so too is your life. It'll feel long and full and nourishing. And so that is just one practice to bring your awareness on board, is taking those moments to really consciously breathe and to breathe deeply. So a couple other practices would be learning your human design, right? Human design is all about cultivating this awareness of your inherent energetics and how to work with that energy versus against it to build this life of ease and flow. And it's a really great signpost to know when you're in alignment and when you're out of alignment. So with human design, we talk about this mental, physical, emotional awareness centers. These are kind of like renditions of the chakra system, and they are also relaying information to us. So an emotional symptom like anxiety, right? That can be, instead of being like, why is this happening to me? It can be, okay, well, where am I feeling this in my body right now? Like starting to get out of the mind and into the body and recognizing where is that lodged? And then what type of anxiety is it? Is it related to finances? Is it related to relationship? Is it related to me feeling safe and secure? Or is it anxiety that I don't have the answers to something? Right? So starting to shift the way in which you're looking at these symptoms that are coming on board, how can you bring it back to your body? And then another practice would be to start being present, being more in the moment. It's so easy for us to get stuck in the past or future trip forward. So attuning to your 5 senses. What are 5 things that I see right now? What are 4 things that I can touch? What are 3 things that I hear in this moment? What are 2 things that I smell? And what is 1 thing that I can taste? And that can really bring us right back to the present moment of where we are, grounded in our feet. Another one would be to tune inward, right? So having more solo time, time to retreat, to step away from the noise, step away from the everyday, and allow ourselves to hear that inner voice, those body messages that are coming through. So this can look like taking time to meditate, taking time to journal, going for a walk in nature, or even taking a bath. And one of the ones I love is actually journaling. I used to hate it because I felt like it became a chore doing it every day, but then I shifted the way I approach it. So now I only do it when I really feel called to, and I even have it where I don't necessarily date it. I just have a different color pen for the week. And so sometimes there'll be a lot of days where I write in that color, and that means that week. And then there'll be like only a couple of pages other weeks because it's a different color. And so then I just don't feel so attached, like, oh, it's a chore. It's more when I really feel called to journal and have something to share and get out of me. And then the last one would be updating your preferences. I'm sure you can all relate to this. On your computer at some point, a little message popped up in the right corner to say, update your preferences or update system. And then you always click. You can type in the chat if you've done this. They're like, oh, remind me tomorrow. Not right now. And we keep pushing it off and pushing it off. But this is about updating your beliefs, your values. What has shifted? Like whatever age you're at, whatever phase you're in, what has shifted even in the last 5 years, in the last 2 years, in the last 10 years? Have you ever taken the time to really reflect on like what resonates with me now with the person I am today? And then also like, who am I right now? And um, what do I like to do? What is fun? Like I struggled with this one coming out of like I have 2 little kids, and for the past 10 years, like it was all about them really. And then I lost myself in it for a while, and I really didn't know what fun was. So feel free to type in the chat if you can relate to this, and if you've ever, skipped out on updating your preferences, or if you feel lost and not even aware of what fun is. Okay. And then lastly, I just have this here. This is like a body, mind, and soul. It's interconnected. And this is a really great depiction of that because we can balance our chakras. We can balance our human design centers. We can look at Ayurvedic doshas and balance them. We can balance through 5 elements, or we can look at the koshas. And this is a depiction of the koshas, which are layers or sheaths that illustrate how our mind, body, and soul are interconnected. And it really goes from like the outermost layer, which is like the physical body, all the way to the innermost area, which is that green little dot, which is your soul, your Atman, your true self. And it's really non-linear. It means that you can access any of these layers at any time, but there will be a ripple effect or an impact that happens to another layer. So that simple thing of like conscious breathing will have this impact throughout all the layers and help you get that arrive at that authenticity and help you tap into that. And then next slide. So with all of this being said, we really want to come back to like, how do we make this phase of life fun, right? Like these symptoms that we might experience when we're in them in the moment, they're not really feeling that pleasant. They can feel like we're having these lemons like whipped at us, right? But what if you knew that a lemon was coming at you, right? What if your awareness was heightened of what might come and maybe had some strategies or remedies of how to handle it? And you learned this by connecting with other women and learning from them because we're all sharing our experiences and navigating it together versus alone. Then maybe you could catch one of those lemons and maybe catch a couple more and then essentially make some lemonade because you're embracing the shifts with more compassion, with more love for yourself and for the people around you and all the different parts of yourself. And you can really start to make it fun. And that really comes down to encouraging yourself and or encouraging people around you to start talking about all the crazy shifts that are happening, right? Like, so you're not walking it alone. And I'll share one with you. Um, so one of the things that came on for me in the beginning of the year, it was around January, and it took a few occurrences before I really recognized what it was. But I'd like be around either at work or at home or in some place, and I get this like whiff of this like BO/urine kind of smell. And it would just kind of come and go and come and go. And I was like, what is that? And it wasn't until like the third or fourth time I was actually, I just washed the kids' like topper mattresses and I was putting them back on. And I kept getting this smell. And I was like, what? Like, what is that? And then I'd go in the kitchen and I'd like get a whiff of it near the kitchen. And I'm like, kids, I'm like, come smell around here. Do you smell anything? No, mom, like nothing, nothing. I go back on the mattresses and I'm like, oh my God, like, did the kids like pee all over? I don't understand. And then all of a sudden I put my head in my shirt and oh my God, it was me. And I reeked and I didn't understand because I had like, I mean, these were all occurrences where I just showered that morning. Like it wasn't making any sense. Like, what is this new odor that has come about? So I did what any of you, I'm sure, would do, where I went and took a shower again, but then also went to the store and bought like 5 deodorants, one for every single area I could possibly have. Cause I'm like, how else do I navigate this? Like, this is obviously a new onset, this like new hormones that came about and that are shifting and creating this odor that is exuding from my armpits. Um, so that is just like one of the things, but starting to talk about it, starting to have fun. Another one would be my left arm gets so itchy, and it started about 2 years ago at camp, just out of the blue. And I thought it was our detergent. I was like giving my husband a hard time because I'm like, okay, it's got to be this detergent you used. You just bought this new stuff. Like my body doesn't like it. I keep scratching. Like, and then I would change the detergent and then it would just happen again and again and again. And it was even to the point where I had scratched so hard one night that I was like bleeding on my left arm. Like I had big, huge scratches. And a couple days later, I went out with some girlfriends and like I had a top on top, like a little tank top and then a little sweater, but somehow through the night it came off. And then all of a sudden my girlfriends are like, hey, like, are you going to tell us about this like crazy sexual experiences you're having? And you have all these like crazy scratches on you and like they're making light of it and fun of it. And I'm like, oh my God, no, I just can't stop scratching my arm. And they're like, and they're the ones that were able to heighten my awareness. It can be a symptom of perimenopause, that is a thing. And I'm like, oh, so it's not my detergent. So it's starting to talk about this stuff can really bring this lightheartedness to this time in life. Itchy soles of the feet, so annoying. Yes, like completely. I hear you on that. Woke up this morning, uh, hormones be changing how we smell. Yes. Okay. So, I just want to, so these are some of the tools that can help support you. We've talked about a lot of them through this presentation, but here it's about exploring and integrating these practices, and they can be done individually for you at home to support you in this phase. Or you can really start to connect with 3 soul-led women like ourselves who have crafted an experience that is designed to infuse all of these tools of human design, yoga, astrology, meditation, talking about the elements and how to align with them, journaling, ceremonies to help amplify the energetics and connection to your being. And this is an experience that we are running to truly create this transformational experience for you. In 2025, we're hosting Wild Women by Design, a wraparound retreat experience to support midlife women like yourselves in rediscovering who you are and to help you step into your wild woman essence through the lens of human design, gene keys, elements, cycle syncing, and more. So we're going to take the next few minutes just to share this experience with you and how it can support you.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about why actually go on retreat. The retreat experience itself, I think sometimes can be perceived as just this place to, go relax, go take a vacation. And there is definitely an element of that to any good retreat. But for us, the way we approach and are approaching our retreat is that that time for you to withdraw, to come into community with a group of women is really about creating a sense of privacy and safety for yourself for transformation. And the this idea of it being a period of group withdrawal is, I just want to highlight the importance and the transformative power of being in a community of women who are all doing the same kind of deep soul searching that you are doing. Having that support and having women who see you and can empathize with you is a truly incredible experience, and one that the three of us experienced ourselves together, and we're able to come together to offer this for you. So thank you, Jen, for your enthusiasm. I love it. So, in terms of the broader meaning, we also want to mention that this is a chance for you to pamper yourself, to be in the lap of luxury. We've talked about putting yourself first, and giving yourself time to retreat is like a giant step forward in that process. It is a sign, a signal to the universe that you are moving forward with this, you're taking it seriously, and therefore you are like raising your vibration in doing so. This retreat process allows you to cut out the noise of all of the external, things that are going on, all of just the pressures that are coming to you from the outside. It's a chance for you to escape that, and for you to learn, to evolve, to grow, and to fill your cup. You can't. There's this idea of not being able to give from an empty cup, and a retreat really offers you the opportunity to do that. And we are designing tools and ceremonies and experiences for you to be able to process your shit and to turn it into gold. We chose this space in Maloa, which we'll talk about in a little bit, which is in the Costa Rican jungle. And Mama Nature supports this transformative process in such an incredible way. So let's talk a little bit more about the journey itself, which is we've very intentionally designed this retreat experience to be more than just the retreat itself, because as women who have been on retreat and experienced that, our biggest pain point has been around the beauty and the transformative experience of being in that space, and then both not feeling quite prepared for it, as well as feeling like we're coming back to real life and it feels like a cold shower and we don't quite know how to ground ourselves. So when we talked about hosting a retreat, it was really important for us to address both of those components. So we are going to actually start this experience in January, and we're going to build our online community. We'll be offering classes, we'll be teaching you about human design and some of the elements that will really set you up to feel very grounded, and also to come together with this group of women who now you already know and are so excited to meet in real life. Then we land in Costa Rica for a 6-day retreat, where we will experience excursions, definite pampering. You'll be so cared for and loved up, and will just feel like the queens that you are. And then when you're coming home, we've got some time built in to meet again and to share your experiences of transferring from this new version of yourself into your real life. What does that look like? And how can we support you with this new community to really integrate and practice what you have learned? So the retreat is for this type of woman. I mentioned the community piece. If you are looking to celebrate yourself, to meet with women who become your soul sisters, if you're looking to rest and rejuvenate and also learn and connect and feel inspired as well as inspire other people, this is for you. If you're in this phase and you're feeling a little lost, like you don't really know what's next, you don't really, you're coming out of the mothering phase, or, that's not to say that you can't still be mothering, but perhaps it's demanding a little less of you. And so now you have a little bit more time to really think about what's important for you. However, it's like you don't necessarily know who you are anymore. This is a chance for you to experience what it's like to really focus on yourself and think about that and ponder that. If you're wondering just what the fuck, like what the hell is going on with my body? What is going on with my mind? How do I get a handle on this? How do I practice some of the things that we've talked about today? How do I really deeply root them within myself so that I can experience what life can be like, feeling more grounded, feeling more like you are feeling aligned. So if you're at a crossroads, if you are curious about what's next, that will be part of the retreat experience, is creating a plan for yourself. Like, how do I actually put this into place? How do I first gain clarity on how I want the rest of my life to look? And then how do I take some action steps? How do I make this actually happen? So I'm going to hand it over to Joe, who's going to talk about what this whole experience entails.
Right. So there are many different elements that we talked about already, but one is really about learning some of these modalities that we've mentioned. So human design is really, really helpful, and you don't have to know the detailed information, but there are some basic things like what's your type, what's your strategy, what's your authority, how do you use it, that we're really going to go into with you. And the gene keys, we're going to pick out some gene keys, which are actually based on the human design, but it's also based on the Chinese I Ching, some of the themes that are relevant for you in particular. And that's why we will personalize things, because you will get your own workbook, which has your personal important gene keys. And then we'll also, talk about the importance of the cycles, archetypes, elements, and all of these things that we've mentioned, to have a better understanding how it fits into your life, what it represents, and how you can use it. And then you can have a new understanding of who you are, what your gifts are, and then how can you use them for your greatest potential. And then the other part of it is, like Laurie's already mentioned, it's this connection community, being with like-minded women, sharing stories, really forging a sisterhood. And like, we're examples of this. We met at a retreat and never met each other, and now we're doing this together, and we feel really connected. And actually having this knowledge about ourselves and each other allowed us to become close friends without having to spend years together. And I think retreat experiences like this, and knowing yourself, knowing each other on a different level, helps with that. And then you can build lasting friendships, and even maybe business alliances. And then there's this real strong connection with nature. I mean, the jungle is wild in Costa Rica, where we're going to be. There's a sacred waterfall, and when we were there, we call our retreat Wild Women by Design, and oh boy, were we wilded. We rewilded while we were there. We ended up doing things that we would never normally do, just because the wildness of the jungle asked us to get a bit silly and do crazy things, and jump into a pool after an ecstatic dance, even though that wasn't part of the program, or go and swim in the river unexpectedly, things that we didn't plan, but the jungle still made us go do more external things, but also go deeper within. So that's where I feel the connection with nature. And then there is all these activities that are part of it. So we'll do some of them online. There will be yoga or meditation and sharing circles, but also some of these, as on the pictures are, will be happening during the retreat: cacao and dance, a clay ceremony, and also going to the sea, and obviously yoga. And then there is the food. I mean, the food is a whole other thing that the girls got very, very excited about, in particular that the picture on the left, which is a Maggie's special. I think Maggie would have loved to eat that every day, all day. Is that right, Maggie?
Definitely. I would have liked like 5 servings of that mashed potato with garlic and veggies.
I
But
think it
even,
was a starter.
yeah, it was just a starter.
And the team at Emiloa prepares meals fresh every day. The food is all fresh. It's very, very carefully created. It looks beautiful, it tastes beautiful, and it is just the perfect amount, and it's always served to you. There's one massive big table where you will sit every day, and they will just bring it out to you. You don't have to worry about anything. The food just gets given and delivered to you, which is so luxurious, really. And then there is also times built in to just relax, and all the accommodations have spots to relax. You can book. We will include a massage as well, and you can book more if you want to. So there's really that opportunity to just chill and relax and feel rejuvenated that way.
Okay, so just one thing about the meals and that I wanted to comment on is that was a huge piece for me, is going on retreat and having somebody else take care of the meals and not having to think for even a moment of what I was going to be eating or what I was going to be making for anybody else or for myself, allowed me to really hold that energy and expend it on myself and internally and towards the other people that were on retreat with me. So that in itself, for any woman at any phase, I think can be super supportive. So just really keeping that in mind. That is a huge benefit of going on retreat, is not having to worry about what your meals are and trusting that the food will be nutritious and delicious. Now, in terms of accommodations, Imaloa has a variety of different accommodations spread out over about an acre. They actually own about 30 acres of land, but we are housed within an acre. And there's like the heart in the middle where we kind of convene for activities and for meals. And then there's surrounding areas that have different accommodations for different experiences. The first one being the bungalows. So essentially here, this is like a picture is worth 1,000 words, like just giving you some insight of what the areas look like. But we really organized our accommodations so that everyone is either going to be in a shared room or a single room. So shared being it's only with two of you. And a lot of the rooms are hold like a king size bed, and with a lot of space. So example would be the geodesic domes. Like we stayed there on our trip. We went in at the end of August so that we could experience the venue for ourselves. And we got to stay in one of these domes, and it was super spacious. There was like, we were able to put 2 king size beds in there, or you could put one single king size bed in there and really have space and privacy for yourself. So you get to choose between that if you want a single stay or you want to have a roommate. And if you don't know anyone, we can always pair you up with someone if you're open to that. Lori, you want to talk about the suites?
I'd love to. So the villa suites are a little bit more, everything at Imaloa is luxurious, but if you're looking for kind of a more VIP experience, the suites would be a wonderful option. And so we have the Jogalo Villa, which you could see some of the images pictured here, and the Potu Villa as options there. And basically, you're just looking at a larger space for yourself, and or if you wanted to share the space with a bestie, these would be great options for you. And yeah, they're just stunning. And I think, Joe, are you covering this?
I can do, yes.
Great.
So we really wanted to provide a lot of value for what, coming along this whole journey, this whole experience, including the online, including the actual retreat in Costa Rica. So it's what we've included is everybody gets a personalized human design reading. You also get a printout of your design. Then we include recorded yoga classes, guided meditations, and all the training we've mentioned. Then during, obviously, we talked about the retreat when you're there, and the different trips and activities. And we'll also we will be staying somewhere where we will invite you to our residence as well. So the way that it's all laid out is that, and then there's a lower section where the river is, where there are all the smaller accommodations, and then higher up you have a view over to the ocean. A plane will take you from San Jose Airport to near the site, and then the taxis will drive you there, so you don't have to worry about that. And we give you a personalized workbook, which gives you your design, your certain gene keys, and it infuses this general knowledge and also more personalized to you yourself. And the massage, like I've said, and then all the training and integration that we will do afterwards, where you can share how it's been for you and how it's landing in real life, really, your day-to-day life. What's not included is your own flights. The private plane leaves in the morning, so you really are best to arrive the night before, so you need some accommodation for the first night before we start, and some insurance and gratuities, although that's not expected because they treat the staff really well and they pay them a good wage in the Maloa.
All right, so this brings us to our early bird, which is on right now. It is a 4-figure investment, and it ranges anywhere from 4,500 to 7,000 US, depending on the accommodations that you select. So the ones that we explored, the bungalows, the domes, the suites, and the villas. So you can elevate your experience if you so choose to. The base rate is 4,500 US or 3,400 pounds. So the early bird ends October 31st. So you do have a little bit of time to contemplate this and really feel into it and talk to your besties and see if there's anyone that wants to join you. And then after October 31st, the price will increase $500 US on every accommodation option. So we do have payment plans, or you could pay in full. And then, Lori, if you go to the next slide, we do have some bonuses for you. So if you pay in full at any time, you can book an Akashic Records reading with Johannika. And if you book within the next 3 days, so by Wednesday at 1 p.m., or if you book with your friend before the end of the month, you can receive this bundle where you receive a holistic menopause consultation with Johannika. And this is to really help you look at the connections of perimenopausal symptoms to other physical, mental, or emotional health factors that you're experiencing. You'll receive access to a yoga bundle that gives you 30 recorded yoga classes that are curated to help you align your mind, your body, and your soul. And in essence, treat your body by doing less physical, hard types of exercise and support your cortisol levels. And you can access that at home at any time. And you'll receive a personalized oracle card reading with Lori to gain insight and guidance to navigate your current life struggles. Okay, and that is available if you book in the next 3 days or if you book with a friend before the end of the month. So I just want to talk about, it can be so easy for us to say no, especially as moms, because we often say it multiple times a day. But there's always a reason not to do something, right? We can always talk ourselves out of anything based on our conditioning or our upbringing. We can experience a lot of guilt or shame for spending money on ourselves, especially as women. And I catch myself doing this all the time. We may believe that we should prioritize other people's needs or wants and then save for the future. And I can even account for this on a weekly basis where I'm like, my kids need this, my kids need that. And oh, I gotta pay for this, but here I want something. And then I put myself at the bottom of the list. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe next week or maybe next month I'll worry about the thing I want. So society or our family upbringing can tell us that self-care or indulgence is a selfish thing, and can really negate the impact that doing something like that can have on yourself. We may have anxiety or concerns about finances or our budget, and those are valid things. And I definitely, not taking away from that by any means. But we may also feel unworthy or like we have to earn something in order to say yes to it. We may find ourselves often saying like, oh, I would love to do something like that someday. So just recognizing if you relate to any of this. And a really common one for any of you that are moms, or maybe you have a big business or a big family dynamic that you care for, it can be like, I can't leave them. They need me. And they do. However, they need the best version of you. And so I'll give you an example. My daughter, who is 7, when I was telling her that I was going on retreat, she was really having a hard time with it. And at one evening when she was crying about it, she said, well, why do you even need to go on a retreat, mommy? And I said, well, you know how mommy takes care of you and your brother like every day? Sometimes moms need someone to take care of them. And retreats allow moms to be taken care of so that they can come back to their families feeling revitalized and excited and ready to go. And all of a sudden, she was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And it was an opportunity to really set the stage for her future, and to help her understand like prioritizing herself is just as important as helping take care of everyone else and investing herself as well. Um, so hopefully that stays with her. And it can be really hard for us to say yes. It takes courage and trust to say yes and to take action on something for ourselves. And even to just acknowledge that our dreams are important, right? It takes a sense of worthiness from within to know that it'll be fruitful on a soul level. And David Bach, you might be familiar with him. He's this financial expert and he's wrote a few books. And I was listening to this interview with him. And at the end of the interviewer asked him, if you knew you were going to die tomorrow, what advice would you give to the people that remain? And here I thought he was going to give like financial advice, but what he actually turned around to say was, he goes, I would tell them to just love fully, to not hold back from fear of rejection. And I would tell them to live life to the fullest, to live fully, to do the things that light them up. And I was so astounded by this comment, by this answer, because I like truly thought he was going to give more financial advice, but this was amazing to hear. So if you feel like what we've shared with you has supported you in some way, has lit you up, or made you feel even the slightest yes, I encourage you to join us. Like, take advantage of the early bird, the pricing, the savings, the bonuses, and really invest in yourself and step into your wild woman. So the next steps that we have for you is explore our We Travel site. The link is already in the chat. And you can get more details there. You can select your accommodations. We are available if you need support in doing that and trying to select the best fit for you. If you are kind of on the fence still, or you have some questions or concerns, feel free to book a call with us. We do have some availability over the next couple of days, and you can book in. There's a link in the chat. You can book in with me over the next couple of days for just a quick phone call. We can go over some concerns and see if this fits for you and what would be the best option. And then next would be to actually reserve your seat. Select whatever payment option you want, and then just sit back and relax. Like, we will take care of the rest for you. That's what we're here for. And then next we have just a list of resources that you can explore for additional support. And this, you can take a screenshot of this if you like and explore some of these books or some of these people that have supported us with a lot of guidance and information to help navigate this phase. But we genuinely invite you to join us, and we hope that you will. And we're really grateful that you've stuck around this long. And now we have some time for questions and even an opportunity for you to unmute yourself and share anything that you feel called to.